Great. So what we're going to be doing today, thank you so much for popping that in, is that we will be, okay, let me just admit everyone, we're going to be looking at transitions. And then I know that earlier today, because there was quite a lot of like grammar information to get through, we didn't get a chance to you didn't get a chance to practice on your own. So we will be doing some, because there's not so many transition questions on the SAT. So I'll be like sending over a paper and we can do some you can do some practice of both grammar and transition questions, and then we'll like mark them together, but we'll do transitions first. So transition words. And anyone who's just coming in now, please put your name in the chat. And also when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see you. So if you have a question, just pop it in the chat or use the raise hand function, because, you're all just teeny weeny thumbnails. So transition words are like, obviously there are some questions about them in each of the essay, in each like module, normally only like 2 to 3 questions. I was just trying to see what the percentage is. Let me not a huge amount, but they're really helpful in like not just the questions directly asking about them, right? They're knowing and feeling confident about them. It's like incredibly useful during the reading stuff that we'll be getting to in the next few days, and just generally because if we didn't have transition words, essentially we wouldn't be able to like really like make sense of the like text that we read. So they're all about the relationships between clauses. So we have 3 main types of transition words. We have continuous here, which is like when the relationship is continuing the thought. A cause and effect, kind of self-explanatory, like clause A, effect, like the effects to clause B, or contrast. So there's like, this is by no means an exhaustive list. There's loads, but these are some of the most common transition words that you get on the SAT. So continuous are words like also, additionally, indeed, moreover, for example, and for instance, and then a subset. But with those ones, if it's for example or for instance, it's not so straightforward as that. It's just like they're not all interchangeable. Obviously, if it says like, for example, an example needs to follow, and then there's the like subset of that, which is sequence words, which is things like then, next, and finally. Great. And then contrast words are things like but, however, nevertheless, even though, although, and also though, and then things like while, yet, and despite. Hi, people who are just arriving. We are looking at transition words. These are the 3 main kinds. Can everyone who's just got here just pop their name in the chat? And then finally, the cause and effect ones are words like consequently. Sorry, my lips are so dry today. Because, therefore, since, and so. For the cause and effect, to identify them, you need to put but you can check to see if it is one. You replace it in your head with because of this, and if that makes sense, then it is a cause and effect one. So that's a nice little trick to check if it's causes. All right, any
just keep on screen.
Okay.
Okay, you could go study. Okay.
All right, we've got some sound. I can't see where it's coming from though. All right, fantastic. Does this make sense so far that there's these different types? Whoever's sounds, can you just make sure that you're muted, because the audio is going through. I just can't see who it is, unless it's a question, in which case that's fine, but it just sounds like background noise. All right, fab. Okay. So yeah, so the because of this is like a way of checking like to see if it's definitely a cause and effect. So we can use the chat for this. What do we think the relationship is here? In the past, coffee was blended to suit a generic popular taste. Now many different coffee flavors are being produced. Yep, perfect. This is the contrast. Well done, everyone. So now we've seen it's a contrast. What's the right answer? Yeah, perfect. However, is the contrast word here. Great. All right, let's try another one. What's the relationship here? Researchers are unable to drill into the Earth's core. Its chemical composition remains a mystery. Is it a contrast, a continua, or a cause and effect? And just pop the answer in the chat, or if anyone feels brave and wants to raise their hand or just shout it out, that's also fine. Yeah, perfect, Irina. This is a cause and effect. It is the fact that, I mean, this one, the because of it doesn't work so well because obviously it's at the beginning where the transition comes, but it is like because the researchers are unable to drill into the Earth's core, that its chemical composition remains a mystery. Like the clause A is the cause of clause B. So some real tongue twisters going on here today. So now everyone have a look at these answers and which one do you think the answer is? Perfect. Okay, cool. Any other choices? Yeah, since is the right answer here. That is the cause and effect one. All right, last one. And then we'll look at some from the test. The Taj Mahal is regarded as one of the 8 wonders of the world. Some people believe that its architectural beauty has never been surpassed. What's the relationship here? Yeah, perfect. Anyone else? Continua, cause and effect, or contrast? Yeah, this is a continua. So now what do we think the answer is here? Which one of these is a continua? Ooh. Yeah, perfect. C indeed is a continua. All right, great. So let's have a look at some examples. I'm going to share my screen. And also, while I do this, if anyone hasn't yet put their name in the chat, please do so. Let me just share my screen from my iPad. So we're going to do 2 things here. We're going to figure out what the relationship is. And also what the answer is. Okay, cool. Does this make sense to everyone so far? Does anyone have any questions before we start looking at these actual before we start looking at the questions? Okay, cool. So have a look at this. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's 2013 novel Americana chronicles the divergent experiences of Ifemelu and Obinze, a young Nigerian couple after high school. Ifemelu moves to the United States to attend a prestigious university. Obinze travels to London hoping to start a career there. However, frustrated with the lack of opportunities, he soon returns to Nigeria. What do we think that the answer is, and what do we think the relationship is? Okay, great. So yeah, the answer here is A, meanwhile. And it is a continua. These 2 things are happening at the same time. So it's like one person's doing this, the other one's doing this. It's like, they're in different locations, but it counts as a continua there. All right, fantastic. All right, great. Let's have a look at 28. Organisms have evolved a number of surprising adaptations to ensure their survival in adverse conditions. Tadpole shrimp embryos, can pause development for over 10 years during extended periods of drought. What's the relationship and what's the answer? Amy, to answer your question, I think like at first, just to save time, you can like look at the two clauses in play, like the first one and the second one. And then but if you sometimes you might need to read the whole thing, but you can like kind of zoom in on like, you know, the space being like, okay, well, we're dealing with these bits around it. So see if you can get it from that, and otherwise read the whole thing. Some you'll be able to answer, and others, you know, you might need a bit more context. All right. Any more takers for what the relate? Yeah, perfect. All right, good. Yeah, so here we have the relationship is a continua, and it is for example. So this is like and the reason why for example works is like we are actually being given an example that follows. All right, perfect. Let's have a look at number 29. In 1933, the 20th Amendment to the US Constitution was ratified. The amendment mandates that presidential inaugurations be held on January 20th, approximately 10 weeks after the November election. Blank, this amendment requires newly elected US senators and representatives to be sworn into their respective offices on January 3rd. What's the relationship? And what's the word? And what's the answer, rather? Yeah, exactly. So most of you are getting that one right. The relationship is a continua, like the president being you know, inaugurated on January 20th, and like senators being inaugurated or like sworn in on January 3rd are like pretty like, you know, it's not like contrasting information. But here we want like in addition, see like for instance, and specifically are both also continuous, but they don't make sense in this context, right? Like it's not like an example of the first clause, and it's not like a more specific way of stating it. All right, fantastic. Number 30. In her poetry collection, Thomas and Beulah, Rita Dove interweaves the titular characters' personal stories with broader historical narratives. She places Thomas's journey from the American South to the Midwest in the early 1900s within the larger context of the Great Migration. Blank, Dove sets events from Beulah's personal life against the backdrop of the US civil rights movement. What's the what is the relationship, and what's the answer? Okay, what does everyone think? Take a minute to think about this. Not got so many responses. All right. So let's look at this one. This is a little trickier, right? So what do we have here? We have Thomas's journey from the South to the Midwest within the larger context of the Great Migration. And then we've got Beulah's life is against the backdrop of the US civil rights movement. So in both of these cases, her characters their personal lives are being placed in a backdrop of these like historical narratives, in this case about like you know, Black history in the US. So what do you think, like, so what's the relationship? I think it's like clear that it's a continua. So that the ones that we could get rid of then are like, thus is a cause and effect, regardless is a contrast. So it's like, is one more specific? Is one like a more specific example of the other, or is one similar? So specific, it would be like the A would work if it was like, if it was kind of between, you know, if we said something like Rita Dove places characters in historical, like against historical backdrops, then we could say specifically her character so and so. But because it's between these two characters, what's happening here is just like it's different history, but it's a similar like artistic thing. So the answer here is D. Did that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah, fair enough. Whoever didn't see the names. So yeah, we've got Thomas's journey and Beulah's journey. So there's like, she's doing similar things with both these characters. So it's a continua and we want similarly. All right, fab. Okay, so I'm going to give, does anyone have any questions about this while I put the test paper that we're going to work from in the chat so everyone can see it? Just double check what we're doing. All right. Okay, cool. So we're going to be doing questions from SAT 3. Can everyone click on that test paper that I've sent and make sure they have it? If anyone has any problems, please let me know. We're going to be turning to SAT 3, Module 2, which I know seems like we're jumping around, but there's frustratingly no transition questions in Module 1. And we will be doing, so that we're going to be doing questions like the grammar questions and transition questions from this. So starting at number 18 on page 24. And then going up until, so questions 18 to 27, I'll put this in the chat. Questions, okay, so it's SAT 3, Module 2, questions 18. And that's standard English, because that's grammar. Yeah, whoever just asked if there's meetings this week on command of evidence, craft and structure, and standard English conventions. The standard English conventions meeting was this morning. Yeah, grammar was this morning. And that we're doing practice right now for that as well. And then also the rest of it will be, I'll show you the schedule. I think you should have all got it in your emails. So tomorrow we'll be doing words in context and then pure reading comprehension. And then Wednesday, claim data conclusion and rhetorical synthesis. And then Thursday, doing a full practice paper. Also, there will be recordings of all of these sessions made available. All right, so we're going to do questions 18 to 27, and then questions 28. So you're going to be doing all of these questions, and this is on SAT 2, Module 2. I mean, yeah, SAT 3, Module 2. The one I sent in the chat, the one that starts with this. And I will set a timer for like 14 minutes, but I'll just give you all a minute. When people have started to like get that ready and are ready to work on it, will you just like maybe do like thumbs up reactions or something? So I know that I'm not going crazy. Great, a couple of you. Does anyone have any issues accessing that test paper I sent? Or any questions about what we're doing, where we're doing it? It starts on page 24 of SAT 3 that I sent in the chat. Does anyone need me to resend it? Anyone have any problems? All right. Well, in that case, I'm assuming that this means that everyone's got it right in front of them and it's all good. I will set a timer we'll do 15 minutes to do those. If you finish early, if you like finish before the end of that time, just like maybe drop a message, and if a lot of you have them, we can start going over it. Because obviously our time is limited. But you know, I'll be on this call, so if you need to send me like a message because you're having issues with like accessing it or whatever, do let me know. So yeah, it is questions 18 and then to 27, and then also questions 28 to 31 on SAT 3 module 2, which begins on page 24. Does anyone have any questions before I start this timer? All right, off you go. Good luck, everyone. Okay, after 27, you'll be doing questions 28 to 31, which are the transition word questions. So questions 18 to 27 are grammar questions, and then questions 28 to 31 are transition word questions. But because they come together, we'll just do them all in one go. Sorry, you've got about 3 minutes left. I don't know why it disconnected. All right, fantastic. How did everyone get on with that? Good? Bad? Okay. Any thoughts anyone wants to share before we start going through them? All right, let's have a look. It looks good, fine. All right, perfect. Okay, cool. So let's start going through this. Let's have a look at question 18. What did people get for question 18? Just pop it in the chat and I can. Yeah, perfect. Everyone seems to mostly be getting this one right. This is a tense question. The answer is B. It is reach. We can see that they travel faster and faster, at which point they are this and are like this. So we've got the present tense elsewhere, so we want reach. So fantastic. Good shout. All right, number 19. What did everyone get? Yep, perfect. This one also, like, it's the tense is correct, and it also makes it an independent clause before the colon, which we want. Great. All right, number 20. Yup, fab, everyone. Good. This is a subject-verb agreement question. The subject here is a document which is singular. And so we want the singular verb form, which is outlined. So it's C. Fab. All right, 21. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, again, it's D here. We want an independent clause and then a comma and then a dependent clause. And so this one, that's how we separate these two clauses. Great. All right, 22. Okay. Mostly right. I think that okay, so what's happening here? We don't want, the answer in this case is C. This is actually a modifying clause. But powered with energy collected by solar panels during the day, we don't need any punctuation there. We just need the comma to separate the dependent modifying clause, which is a mod, we need a comma at the end to then separate that from the independent clause that follows. Does that make sense? All right. Does anyone have any questions on those ones before I start moving on to the rest? Don't want, if there's something people need to go over, to skip. All right, fab. 23, what did everyone get? Yeah, perfect. Fab. Yeah, D is the correct answer to 23. What that gives us is an independent clause and then comma, but, and then another independent clause, which we know is correct. Good job. All right, 24. Yeah, perfect. The subject, it's a subject verb agreement one again. We want was, it's the correct tense, sorry, and also the sort of subject the verb is agreeing with. It was the club's leader was, this is singular, Josephine St. Pierre Raffin. Was it, so was, is it? Because it's a subject verb agreement. And Josephine, among the club's leaders, was Josephine St. Pierre Raffin. That is singular. So it's only was one person. Okay, great. Yeah. If it was like among the club leaders were like Josephine, Barbara, all these things. Yeah, like it's just because it's just one person, then it's that. All right, fab. Let's have a look at number 25. What did everyone get? Great. Yep, fantastic. 25. It is A. So this is actually a modifying clause here. Since uncovering fragments of a 20-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia, we have our ing here, even though it's slightly hidden. It is the person who's doing that. The subject of it is researcher Robert Losey. Great. All right, 26. Yep, perfect. Again, we want this. This is A. We have the independent clause, which is here. That's this bit. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. Give me a second. Independent clause. It's ancient tombs. That's the independent clause. So then we need to have a period afterwards. And then we actually have a dependent clause and then an independent clause again. But we need to separate. If we have independent clause and then, dependent clause, comma, independent clause, we still need to separate these two ideas with the period because otherwise it would be a run-on. All right, 27. What did everyone get? Okay. All right. So here we actually don't want any punctuation. So engineer. So here we have our subject, engineer Erkka Frankberg of Tampere University in Finland. And then it's that they used the chemical, and it's the chemical compound aluminium oxide to make a glassy solid that can withstand higher strains. It's all part of the predicate. We don't need to separate it out. There's no extra clauses. The thing that they were using was the chemical compound aluminium oxide to, in order to do this. So we really don't need any punctuation here. Because it's just not another clause after that. It's that they use it to make that. You wouldn't be like I bought milk to make tea, right? Like you just don't need to add anything after that. And a general rule of thumb with commas is that if in doubt, leaves them out. Do ask yourselves if it needs it. If we think about this in terms of how we'd read it out loud, right? You wouldn't say use the chemical compound aluminium oxide to make a glassy. It's all just one. It's all part of the same clause, the same predicate. All right, great. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, whoever has to leave, that's fine. You can also honestly, you can get them online as well. If you just Google on the College Board website, they have the answer codes as well, sheets. All right, perfect. Number 28. Now we're talking about transitions. What did everyone get for 28? Yeah, perfect. 28, we want A. It's a continua, the sequence, it's like the present day continuation of it. Fab. All right, 29. What did everyone get? Yeah, perfect. So this is a subset of continual ones, these sequent ones, but we've got first. And so here we want second. So good spot, everyone. All right, and 30. All right, a bit of a mixed bag here. So the answer here is thus. It's a cause and effect. Subsequently means next, basically. The more diverse and wide-ranging an animal's behaviors, the larger and more energy demanding the animal's brain tends to be. The trick we can put in here is saying, because of this, from an evolutionary perspective, animals that perform only basic actions should allocate fewer resources to the growing and maintaining of brain tissue. So here is our cause and effect. So the answer is thus. Does anyone have any questions about that before we do the last one? Just whoever asked about fanboys, in what context? Is there something here or just generally? Comma fanboys is to separate two independent clauses, but obviously you don't always have to you can use the word and in a sentence without a comma, so no. If you wrote like this or that. The more diverse and wide-ranging an animal's behaviors, the larger it brains to be. So it's saying that their brains demand more energy, and because of this, animals, it's like this all of this is a result of that statement, right? Animals that perform only basic actions should allocate fewer resources because of this piece of information we've been given about the brain. Does that make sense? What's for question 23? All right, where's 23? Yeah, here we need to put a comma before but because it's separating two independent clauses. That was why that was. All right, great. Cool. Should we do the last one? What did everyone get for 31? Okay, there's a bit of confusion here. So when designing costumes for film, American artist Sutria Lalab typically custom fits the garments to each actor. For the film Sunshine, in which astronauts must reignite a dying sun, she designed a golden spacesuit and had a factory reproduce it in a few standard sizes, lacking the tailor-made quality. The final creations lacking the tailor-made quality. The final creations reflected the ungainliness of actual spacesuits. What's the relationship here? What do you guys think the relationship is? Yeah, it's a contrast, right? So we're saying that normally she like makes these like custom fitted garments for each actor, but in this situation she like ordered like, you know, generic sizes, so they weren't custom fitted to like reflect what was needed to make the spacesuits look a bit crap, right? So it's a contrast. So because it's a contrast, we can get rid of moreover, and likewise and thus, because that is a cause and effect, and these two are continuous, which leaves us with nevertheless, which is the contrast one. Does that make sense? All right, we've got like 5 minutes left. So obviously there's not enough time for you guys to do any more practice on your own, but why don't we do a little bit of practice together as a class in the last few minutes? If we go back to module 1, do some grammar. All right, have a look at this. What do you think the answer is here? Oh, thanks. I didn't see it, but I'm glad you get it. Yeah, it was contrasting things. All right. Sorry, I just, you know, it's always yeah, perfect. Anyone else? Yeah, great. This is in the past tense. We have is renowned. Yeah, detailed. Yeah, perfect. All right, provided. Great. All right, number 21. Yes, the Zooms will be posted on YouTube. I think I'll just like double check, but I think you'll be getting like emails with like the playlist so you can like watch any recordings you miss. All right, is this everyone's answers? I think it's going, I'm slightly confused because they're the same answer for both, but is this answers for 21? I'm just going to assume that they are because you all look right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's A. So here we've got independent clause. And then another independent clause. So we're using a comma but to separate them. All right, 22. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we've got here, it's about where I'm from. Plastic bag consumption decreased by up to 90%. That is an independent clause. And then such taxes are subject to what economists call the rebound effect. Another independent clause. If we weren't clear, we could also know that that means that it has to be right. And so we're separating them with a period. So it's C. Fantastic. All right, let's do 2 more together. And then like Marley wanted to, but couldn't because of this class, I can stay on for a few minutes if anyone has particular questions. But let's have a look at number 23. Yeah, perfect. We don't need any punctuation here. We don't need punctuation between a verb and the preposition whenever, so it's no punctuation. All right. Great. 24. Yeah, perfect. So actually a trick that we can do here, so we can cross out this non-essential clause to make it easier. We identify the subject, Bengali author Toru Dutt's A Sheaf Gleaned in French Fields. That subject is singular. And so we want the singular verb form has enhanced. Fantastic. Should we do one more? Let's do one last one. 25, last one today. Have a look at number 25. This one's a little tricky. Okay. So this one's a bit confusing, right? We've got Heron himself resisted the Godfather nickname, independent clause. But then we've got this little one here. And then we've got feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African American music tradition, as well as bluesologist, the moniker he preferred. So actually, that's anyway, we've got independent clause, and then the however actually acts here as a tiny non-essential. And then we have the main dependent clause. It's like an aside. It's like a kind of commenting back on it. It's like this miniature non-essential clause. So C is the right one. We just want that covered. It just kind of comes between. It's like it's sort of this little aside or little comment. A transition word can sometimes do that, where it just comes between the independent clause and the dependent clause of the sentence. Fantastic. So what we can do, I mean, if you need to go, I understand, because I see that it's 6 o'clock. There's like there's one more standard English convention questions on this module and one transition word. I'll go through these next 2 questions. Everyone leave if you need to. And then after that, I can stay on for a few minutes if anyone has any particular questions. But let's just finish these, because then we've done both all the like standard English conventions and transition word questions in a whole paper, which is good. All right, have a look at number 26. What do we think the answer is for 26? Okay, so let's break this down. There's some right answers in there for sure. So when viewed, oh wait, sorry. Actually, we have the clause directly before is the portraits reveal themselves to be quilts. That is what? Independent or dependent? The portraits reveal themselves to be quilts. Yeah, exactly right. That is an independent clause. Then we have the stitching barely visible among the thousands of pieces of printed microcut fabric. Is that dependent or yeah? So if it said the stitching is barely visible, that would be independent. But the stitching barely visible is a dependent clause. So what do we separate an independent clause and a dependent clause with? Yeah, perfect. Exactly. With a comma. So here the answer is B. Semicolons are used to separate two independent clauses. They're basically the same as a period or a comma and or a comma but. Okay, cool. Let's do one more transition word question on this. And then I'm like, I can just, if anyone has any questions, you can ask me. All right, have a look at this one. Most conifers are evergreen. That is, they keep their green leaves or needles year round. However, not all. Yeah, good spot, guys, because it's not that easy, this one. Because we're saying, yeah, an example follows. So we want, for instance, so we've already had our however. So here we're saying that these larch trees lose their needles every fall. So we want to continue it, and it's for instance. All right, great. So we've just done all of the transition questions and all of the grammar questions in a whole SAT paper today, this afternoon, which is fantastic. Does anyone have, I can like stick around for like another 5-10 minutes if anyone has any particular questions, but otherwise you're free to go. And like, don't feel like you have to write them in the chat. If you want to like just shout them out or whatever, we can chat about it. Thank you, everyone. The YouTube, I think, will be emailed to you. Let me double check with Mike. But yeah, it will. I think you'll be getting the email details, just like you got an email with the Zoom link and the schedule. Why was it a dependent clause? Sorry, Stephen, what number question was that for this one? Oh, this one. Yeah. Okay. So if we said the stitching barely visible among the thousands of pieces, there's no verb. It's not that the stitching is barely visible or the stitching was barely visible. It's just the stitching barely visible. So it's dependent. The portrait should be supposed to be quilt, and then it's a detail about the quilt, but it's dependent. It can't stand on its own because we don't have a verb. That makes sense, Stephen? Great. Any other questions? A semicolon is the same as a period. It's used to separate two, if we go back to our grammar notes from earlier, a semicolon, like here, it separates two independent clauses, right? So we can use a period, a semicolon, or comma fanboys, mostly comma and or comma but. So it's the same as a period. So it's used to separate two independent clauses. Any other questions? All right, fantastic. Bye.